When the corridors of power rumble, the echoes reverberate far beyond Washington, D.C. In the past few weeks, the Trump administration has found itself at the center of multiple storms, legal, political, and economic. The return of Donald Trump to the Oval Office was always bound to reignite passions on both sides of the American divide, but few anticipated the scale of controversy now unfolding inside the cabinet, a space now charged with scandal, division, and unpredictability. And one of the most explosive developments has been the fallout from the long-awaited Department of Justice memo on Jeffrey Epstein. The memo concluded that Epstein died by suicide and that no so-called client list or blackmail materials were ever gathered. For years, Trump's allies and far-right voices had hinted at a bombshell that would expose a global elite, but instead of closure, the memo ignited a political firestorm, this time inside the Trump administration itself. The FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, once a fierce Trump loyalist, reportedly threatened to resign in protest over how the investigation was handled. The finger was pointed at Pam Bondi, another close Trump ally and former Florida Attorney General, who allegedly downplayed or delayed findings that contradicted the MAGA narrative. Bongino's outrage was echoed by prominent conservatives and social media influencers who accused the administration of betraying their promises of draining the swamp. Even Elon Musk weighed in, fanning the flames of distrust among the base. And then came the moment when Trump himself snapped at a reporter who dared to ask about the Epstein memo. Yes, with visible irritation, he dismissed the question as boring and moved on. For many in the room and millions watching, this wasn't just a deflection, it was a signal that transparency may no longer be the priority in a White House once obsessed with exposing the truth. As internal divisions deepened, the administration launched a sweeping layoff plan across government agencies. Over 1,000 employees at the State Department were dismissed in what Trump has described as a realignment of bloated bureaucracy. Critics argue otherwise. They say these cuts are gutting America's diplomatic corps at a time when the world faces heightened tension from Eastern Europe to the South China Sea. Lawsuits are already in motion, with labor unions and watchdog organizations claiming unlawful termination and violations of due process. The economic arena, too, has not been spared. With a single executive order, President Trump imposed steep tariffs ranging from 25% to over 200% on imports from nearly 24 countries. The move, framed as a strategy to force fair trade, has sent shockwaves through global markets. Key allies like Japan, Brazil, and Australia have protested, while American families are already feeling the pinch. Economists warn that these tariffs could raise consumer prices by up to $2,400 annually for the average household, at a time when inflation was just beginning to stabilize. But perhaps the most concerning development is the systematic dismantling of government oversight in what critics are calling the watchdog purge. Trump removed over 17 inspectors general from various agencies, including those tasked with monitoring defense spending, environmental policy, and civil liberties. This mass dismissal was carried out with minimal notice to Congress, raising questions about legality and constitutional checks. Trump's defenders argue these watchdogs were Obama-era handovers bent on sabotage, but bipartisan watchdog groups warn that this is a dangerous erosion of accountability. It seems like adding fuel to the fire is Trump's controversial memo, stripping security clearances from several high-profile attorneys, most of whom had previously investigated or prosecuted him. The list includes New York Attorney General Letitia James and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Legal experts call it retaliation, and the administration calls it national security housekeeping. The drama doesn't stop at policy. It bleeds into personality, symbolism, and power plays. In a recent cabinet meeting, Trump reportedly mocked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, calling him Little Marco, and gleefully recounting how he removed a grandfather clock from Rubio's office as a show of dominance. The chaos within the cabinet has begun to affect coordination on major issues. A Pentagon policy chief recently paused weapon shipments to Ukraine without consulting the president. Trump, blindsided and furious, reversed the move, but the damage was already done. Allies expressed confusion, and critics seized on the moment to question the administration's grasp on foreign policy. At the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Christine Noem has revoked temporary protected status for thousands of migrants from Venezuela, Haiti, and Nicaragua. Detention facilities are overwhelmed, and legal observers warn of mounting human rights violations. Plans to use Guantanamo Bay as a detention center for undocumented migrants are being quietly revived, echoing the darkest chapters of post-9/11 policy. MAGA voices, once unshakably loyal, are beginning to splinter. Influencers like Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk have publicly criticized the administration's recent moves, especially the perceived failure to deliver on Epstein revelation and immigration crackdowns. What we're witnessing is more than just controversy, it is a moment of reckoning. The Trump administration is attempting to wield power, dismantle opposition, and restructure the United States government in real time, all while battling both external pressure and internal dissent. In the words of one former aide, it's not a second term, it's a war room. Whether history will view these moves as bold reform or executive overreach remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: this is not the quiet efficiency of traditional governance. This is spectacle, strategy, and sharp-edged symbolism rolled into a presidency that continues to challenge the norms of American democracy. For World Economic Federation Journalism Guild, I'm Gadesha Miranda.